Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer Guerrero. I'm a full-time psychologist at Parkland Health and Hospital System in Dallas, Texas, but I'm also a member of the Hallmark family, and I'm here to talk to you today about social relationships. So I know that when you hear the word relationship, oftentimes it's easy to only think of romantic relationships, but there are a lot of relationships that we have as adults. So there are relationships that we have with our family members, with our children, our pets, our coworkers. Anybody around us that we have significant communication with can be considered in a relationship with us. And as you can see in the chart that I provided here, there are a lot of different kinds of relationships that uh, we interact with people in very different ways. So this chart distinguishes from voluntary to involuntary relationships and personal and social relationships. A voluntary relationship is a relationship where we seek contact with this person. So you could think of a friend, a romantic partner. These are people that we have chosen to continue communication with. An involuntary relationship is one in which there isn't a lot of choice in terms of having to interact with this person. One great example is your coworkers. You can't always choose your coworkers, but you do have to interact with them, some more than others, to be able to do your job well. So the difference between a personal and a social relationship is a personal relationship is one in which there's a lot of personal information that's being shared back and forth. So a great example would be a romantic relationship or a relationship with your best friend. You may share a lot of information with this person that you really wouldn't want a lot of people to know. So a social relationship is a relationship with multiple people in a group. So a great example is your family. You interact with oftentimes your family in a big social group. You interact with your siblings maybe as a group. And these are individuals that there's some information that you're happy for them to know, but a lot of information that you'd prefer to keep from them. So relationships are extremely important to people, and I'm going to explain why. So first of all, it's important to know that human beings are social creatures. We are hardwired to want to interact with other people. And so there are studies that show that when there's a lack of that interaction, there's really a lot of harm that are done to people. So for example, individuals who spend long periods of time in solitary confinement, so they don't have visual contact or a lot of communication with other people, tend to have higher incidence of depression, and they have higher incidence of other issues like anxiety or even hallucinations, because we need that connection, that interaction with other people. So part of it is because we like to feel heard and understood. And so having those close personal relationships, like with friends and romantic relationships, give us a sense that we can place our trust in other people. And part of it is because we like to have those multiple connections with others, because working together often accomplishes more than doing it on our own. So what I like to tell my patients is, even if you don't spend a lot of time with other people, there are some relationships in your life, and those relationships are important. Even if you work at home, you probably report to someone. Even if you don't have many friends, the ones you do have are probably pretty important to you. And so it's important for us to keep those relationships healthy and ongoing to keep us healthy. Okay, so something that is so important in any relationship, no matter what it is boundaries. So boundaries are the unspoken or spoken rules that there are between two people. And so any relationship has these boundaries. For example, you and your best friend may have a boundary that you don't talk about certain topics because they upset him or her. Or you and your family may not discuss politics because you don't agree and it starts a fight. That's a boundary also. And so a lot of times these boundaries are understood and unspoken and everything works out well. But if you feel repeatedly that these boundaries are being violated, it may be time to make some of these boundaries more open so that you can assert that you need your space. So, for example, I had a patient whose family members were walking into her home without knocking, and this was upsetting her because she felt like she had no peace in her house. So she sat down and explained to them that she loved them, but it was making her very upset for them to walk into her house without knocking because she felt like she was always on edge. She was always waiting for someone to come into her home. So she asked them to either send her a message or knock before they came into her house so she knew that they were coming. So then she stated her boundary. So then she tried to commit to that boundary because when they continued to walk into her house, she told them, remember, I asked you to please knock, to please call, to please text before you come in. And when they continued violating that boundary, my patient eventually started locking her front door. And so her family members at first became very upset and thought that she was angry with them. And then she sat down and told them, I love you and I do want to see you, but it upsets me that you're not listening to me when I'm asking you to respect my boundary and knock on the door, so I had to lock it. So through those discussions, her family members understood that she didn't hate them, she just needed her space. And eventually they were able to work out a compromise, and her family members would call and she would unlock the door and they would have their visits. So it's important when you feel like your boundaries are being violated to respectfully have that conversation with the